dudes and dudettes. How are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many movies that I watch and all across all of the eras of cinema history. And today I'm finally going to be starting reviewing the Star Wars prequels. In case you guys missed it, I did a review of the entire original trilogy, over the course of the last few days, I reviewed episodes 4, 5, and 6, and today I'm even wearing the same shirt. I decided to wear this same shirt here for all of my 6 Star Wars movie reviews because I'm going to be reviewing just the original saga, excluding the Disney movies at least for now. So I'm going to be wearing it because it's the best Star Wars shirt that I have. You can clearly see that it is Star Wars, And today I'm going to be starting off with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, And this is called Episode 1 because George Lucas released them all over the place for some reason, And it is, as the name suggests, the first Star Wars movie of the prequel trilogy and also the first one chronologically in the Skywalker saga and the 4th movie that was, produced, Star Wars related. And it came out in 1999, 16 years after the release of Return of the Jedi in 1983. And it also became the highest grossing film of that year and the second highest grossing worldwide and in North America, behind, of course, Titanic, because it's really hard to top Titanic at any point, Now, it had an initial budget of $115 million, but went on to gross, with all of the other tie-in merge and re-releases, especially the 3D re-release, and I think 2012, went on to help the movie gross over $1 billion worldwide, which is freaking crazy. And it's still the weakest movie in the entire, the prequel trilogy at least. The entire saga might be a little harsh, but it's just not that, it just could have been a lot better, George Lucas initially decided to not even come back to return, but because he had so many backstories for the characters already fleshed out, he wanted to kind of create this prequel trilogy to show us, like the origin stories of some of them, like for example, Anakin Skywalker, who we see as a 9-year-old boy now, his humble beginnings and how he, took a pod racing and loved his mom and all that, We see the development of Obi-Wan Kenobi, we see a little bit of Qui-Gon Jinn, we see a lot of the old beloved characters from the original trilogy coming back, but showing us who they were before all of those adventures, and that was pretty cool. George Lucas decided to direct this one, the first Star Wars movie that he directed since A New Hope in '77, he didn't direct Empire or Jedi, so, it's freaking crazy. But of course, the reception wasn't too lukewarm, because a lot of critics, myself included, I'm not a critic, but you get the point, felt that it was a little too campy and cheesy, like it was Star Wars in a new modern light, but it felt weird, characters like Jar Jar Binks were not really given a lot of, praise, They felt like the movie was a little bit too, humor induced, and certain elements felt a little incongruent, There was way too many politics involved. We don't watch Star Wars for the politics. We watch Star Wars for the freaking lightsaber battles and the force pushing, So it kind of bogged the movie down a little bit, But still, like Jar Jar Binks being kind of like the comic relief character has become a meme at this point in the prequel trilogy and Star Wars as a whole, because it's really hard to take him seriously. He's a bit too wisecracking and funny, so it kind of, made the movie a little bleh. But still, I mean, it didn't exactly tarnish the legacy of Star Wars, George Lucas decided to work with the now very advanced, technology of CGI to create the amazing special effects and not be limited by anything, So that's one of the reasons why he came back to make the prequels. So he started, putting together the story in like the early to mid 90s, and then started filming. So it was pretty cool. And before I continue and give you guys a little summary of the plot, let's take a look at a clip here from The Phantom Menace.
Not condone a course of action that will lead us to war.
A communications disruption can mean only one thing: invasion.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Begin landing your troops.
Now, regarding the story, it's really just all over the place, and I don't even know where to begin. But speaking of which, the original name for The Phantom Menace was actually The Beginning. Did you know that? It was going to be called Star Wars Episode 1, The Beginning, which would make sense, but then Lucas decided to change it to The Phantom Menace, in reference to Palpatine hiding, as an evil Sith Lord behind the facade of a well-known public servant, which was the senator of Naboo. So then the movie starts off with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan trying to resolve this diplomatic thingy with the rebel trade Federation, you know, the Rebel, wow, the Naboo Trade Federation, you know, with the Separatists, and then it doesn't go well, so then they have to draw the lightsabers and do their aggressive negotiations, you know, this and that. One thing leads to another. They escape and land on Naboo, where we meet Jar Jar Binks for the first time, you know, who's played by Ahmed Best, and despite the performance being pretty okay, it is a little odd and it's very kind of strange, you know. They go underwater to the planet of the Gungan city, you know, they take a bongo, then they are almost swallowed by a fish, they go on Naboo, they meet the Queen, you know, and then through a series of different events, we are actually introduced to Anakin Skywalker, you know, because Anakin is a 9-year-old farm boy who doesn't really seem to be anything special, but then Qui-Gon discovers a very high midichlorian count, which is the way for the prequels to do the cop-out for being Force sensitive, you know. You can't just believe that you can use the Force anymore. No, now you gotta have a very high midichlorian count, you know, for some dumb reason, you know. That's such a retcon, man. That was just one of the worst parts about the prequels, you know. So then, you know, he wins them a pod. He wins a pod race for them to get the engine that they need to escape in their ship. Then they go back to. But when they're leaving, we discover that there's a Sith Lord named Darth Maul who is actually after them. You know, who has been like the Sith Lord has been pulling the strings. You know, the Emperor, as we would later call him. You know, there's this evil Sith Lord, and there's always two. So Darth Maul is the apprentice. You know, and then one thing leads to another. They escape. They go back to freaking Coruscant. They talk to the Jedi Council, but they don't want him to train Anakin because he's too old and there's emotions all over the damn place, you know. Everybody's like, hey, this kid's gonna be evil one day. I can feel it in my Jedi bones. That's what the council pretty much, you know, emits the energy there, you know. Qui-Gon, being a douche, decides to train Anakin anyway, although he has Obi-Wan as his apprentice and this and that. More events happen, you know, and as the movie climbs to the climax, you know, there are a few political scenes here and there that are really annoying. Anakin meets Padme for the first time, which begins a very, very disturbing and unsettling romance over the next 3 movies, you know. So, yeah, because he was 9, she was 14, and she was posing as a handmaid, and we find out later that she's the queen, and all hell breaks loose when the Gungans join forces, you know, and then they go to attack the evil CIS droid army and stuff, you know. They invade, and the Gungans fight back with their shields and stuff. It's a very nice, epic, large-scale battle. It's really cool. It looks awesome, you know. The set pieces, you know, the designs, the special effects, everything here was amazing. You really can't complain about that in The Phantom Menace, you know. Then, of course, we get to the climax, which is easily the best part of the movie, where we see the Jedi fight Darth Maul for the first time, you know, 2-on-1, but Darth Maul has a double-bladed lightsaber, you know, so it looks freaking amazing, it looks insane, you know. All the while, Anakin is in the background. He actually manages to steal a ship and goes into space, you know, which definitely beats pod racing. He helps them, you know, the Republic, you know, defeat everything, you know, all this stuff and whatnot. So the thing is that this story here happens, I don't know if I mentioned this before, 32 years before the original trilogy. So everything that we see leads up eventually to what happens there, you know. So as we see Anakin developing his emotions as a kid who misses his mom, we see that it plays around with the idea of him eventually turning evil, you know, and it shows different dynamics, you know, Obi-Wan eventually losing his master, you know, everything is there. There is a balance there that I'm going to talk about later, but eventually the plot thickens, you know, with Darth Maul fighting, you know, the 2 Jedi. Eventually they get separated and he kills Qui-Gon, you know, he stabs him in the stomach, and then as Obi-Wan is about to fall to his doom, he actually he jumps up and slices Maul in half, you know. So yes, a very pretty epic death for a very epic character, you know. And of course we see that Obi-Wan takes Anakin as his Padawan learner. He goes to train him, you know. So yeah, man, it's pretty freaking crazy. It's really crazy just how everything works, you know. And there are a lot of different themes here regarding balance, you know. So, because now we see that Anakin needs his mother, you know, and Obi-Wan needs a master, and Palpatine needs an apprentice, you know. So there are a lot of different concepts of balance here and there, you know. So that's what the movie plays around with. There are different overlapping themes. It just could have been much better executed, in my opinion, you know. But it's all good. Before I continue, let's take a look at another clip here from the movie.
The Federation has gone too far.
The death toll is catastrophic.
Our people are dying, Senator. We must do something quickly.
You must contact me.
There is something else behind all this, Your Highness. They will kill you if you stay. I can only protect you. I can't fight a war for you.
I think we're going to have to accept Federation control for the time being.
This is a battle I do not think that we can win.
I will sign no treaty, Senator.
Now, originally, George Lucas did not want to do anything else Star Wars related, you know, in the 80s. However, climbing into the 90s, you know, there was a resurgence in popularity for Star Wars because of the comics that were being published, you know. And then Lucas, looking at all of his, you know, backstories and, you know, outlines and scripts, you know, he really wanted to bring that back to life, you know. He wanted to continue to make new movies. And because of the, like I said earlier, you know, the new advancements in computer-generated imagery and filmmaking techniques, you know, he thought, you know what, I'm gonna give this a go. I'm gonna give this one a go. 22 years after directing A New Hope in 77, he took the director's chair again, you know, and he wanted to create, just like the original, he felt that what he wanted to say could not be summed up in just one movie, so he already worked on a few drafts for 3, you know. So then he wanted it to be an overarching narrative regarding Anakin Skywalker and his very tragic backstory, you know, starting from his childhood all the way up until his death. So basically, Star Wars itself, it's called the Skywalker Saga because it is essentially about him, you know. He wanted Anakin to be the protagonist instead of Obi-Wan. So not that Obi-Wan is a secondary character, but the main focus really truly is on Anakin, you know. If you stop to look at every single Star Wars movie, you know, at least regarding the original saga, the first 6 movies, everything there is about Darth Vader, you know. It's about him and his childhood, you know, his adolescence, see him growing into a young adult and becoming a very powerful Sith Lord and then eventually coming back to the light side of the Force, you know. It's all about him. It's poetry, it rhymes, as George Lucas said, you know. So that was the idea. Instead of adding to the story, you know, and making it more tangent, he wanted to create this entire mythos that would actually expand upon it more, you know, and that's essentially what it was. Regarding the special effects, you know, everything was much more polished this time around. Everything looked much better to the degree that there were roughly about 1,950 shots in The Phantom Menace that used special effects, you know, which is freaking staggering, you know. In case you forgot, Return of the Jedi had 900 or so, you know, over 1,000 more special effects, and everything looked really good. The vast majority of scenes were filled in with special effects, so you can kind of tell, you know, some of them didn't age very well, but still. And also the costume design was impeccable. It was amazing. The production team created around 1,000 or so different costumes, you know, for the characters to wear. There were about 250 or so for the main characters and over 5,000 costumes for the background characters. No, it was freaking crazy. It was insane, man, you know. But everything had a very nice and modern aesthetic, you know. Things looked pretty okay. And the actors, you know, they had to do stunt choreography with Nick Gillard, you know, for the fight scenes, and he wanted the fight scenes to be a little bit more fluid and natural than what we got in the original trilogy, you know. So they used a lot of different techniques, you know. They took a little bit of Kenpo and I think a little bit of Taijutsu. I don't think it's called Taijutsu though. There was a certain art that it was Kendo and Kenjutsu, you know. The actor who played Darth Maul, you know, Ray Park, he actually was kind of like a Kaido master, so all of the stunts that you see was actually him doing the flips and stuff, you know. Instead of using wires for some of the actors, they used this little pump that they could jump up and do stunts and stuff, you know. So it did look pretty okay, you know. They were called air rams, you know, so it was pretty nice. So the thing is that Nick Gillard wanted the lightsaber battles to kind of resemble a chess game because every move would feel like a check, you know. Everything would be leading up to different checks and eventually getting to the checkmate, which would be delivering the killing blows. So that's essentially the idea, you know. So he would write some sequences that would be about 60 seconds with 5 or 6 sequences per fight, you know. So there was a lot of grueling training involved, you know. There were different swinging techniques that take inspiration from, like, for example, tennis, you know, or tree chopping. So the moves looked a lot better. The fight choreography is probably the best part about Phantom Menace, you know, and the prequels themselves, you know, aside from the special effects. So it looked really nice. I think it was really awesome, you know. They filmed primarily in the Tunisian desert, you know, for the scenes on Tatooine, but they also did do a lot of filming in the Leavesden Film Studios. So a lot of what you see there, if you saw the behind the scenes in the Phantom Menace DVD that I myself have, you know, it's really cool because you even see Steven Spielberg coming on set to check out the droids and stuff, the actual life-size figures. You know, it's really nice because sometimes you forget that Spielberg and George Lucas were actually friends for a while. I think they went to film school together, so it's really cool to see them, you know, on set with each other. So yeah, essentially that was pretty much it, you know. There are a lot of other things that I can say about the production, but it's gonna take a very long time, you know. I wanted to give you guys the basic gist of it, you know. There were a lot of different there were a lot of very good choice for casting as well, you know. The cast itself was actually very well rounded. We have, of course, Liam Neeson playing Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi Master, you know, who eventually falls to Darth Maul. Very nice character, you know. He's very, he is wise, you know, and experienced, but he kind of doesn't really get along with the actual Jedi Council, you know. A pretty good performance by Neeson, if I say so myself. We had Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was a Jedi, you know, Padawan. He was still a learner, you know, eventually being fleshed out more in the other movies and eventually becoming canonically Ben Kenobi that we see in the original, you know. And also we have Natalie Portman playing Padme Amidala, you know, one of the best performances, you know, in the movie, although still a little hampered by her future relationship with Anakin. You know, she is the Queen of Naboo who disguised herself as a handmaiden to not arouse suspicion, you know. Speaking of Anakin, we have Jake Lloyd playing Anakin Skywalker, his 9-year-old boy who doesn't really get a very firm grasp of his emotions, you know, because he misses his mom, spent his whole life with her, there was no father figure, so it was just them two, you know. He built C-3PO, you know, by himself, so he's very, very intelligent, really, really smart, you know, very nice. Ian McDermott as Senator Palpatine, you know, and the thing is that if you're smart, you can figure out that he is the Sith Lord pulling the strings, you know. We kind of ready to figure that out there, you know. But it's very nice to see him grow because he wants to become Chancellor, and eventually he succeeds, you know. He succeeds Chancellor Valorum, you know, for a removal from his powers. So everything plays out the way that he wants to. And Ian has played Palpatine in every single Star Wars movie, I believe, you know. So yeah, freaking crazy. Then Ahmed Best as Jar Jar Binks, you know, one of the most non-praised performances in the movie, you know, but still Jar Jar was kind of fun to become a meme and make fun of and joke around with, you know. But if he wasn't in the movie, it definitely would have taken on a much more serious approach, you know. He did kind of bog it down just a little bit, but still, you know, you can't undo the past now, you know. We had, of course, Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. I think it's the one sole actor who has played his character in every single damn Star Wars movie, you know, is, of course, Anthony Daniels, you know. I believe he was in all 9 Star Wars movies, you know, as C-3PO, which we have the origin story of him being built and stuff, you know, so that was really cool. He kind of looks all nightmarish and stuff. Kenny Baker, of course, as R2-D2, a little guy, you know, in the suit there, you know, and it's really nice to have an actor still inside, you know, to give life to the character and not just randomly make him as a robot as CGI, you know. Then we have a few other characters, you know, I don't know if they're that important, but still, Pernilla August as Shmi Skywalker, who is, of course, Anakin's mom, and we only see her in this episode and then later Attack of the Clones very briefly, you know, but I'm going to talk about that later. And we have Frank Oz as the voice of Yoda, you know, because Yoda is now a very, very scary and cringy puppet, you know, who looked a lot better when George Lucas remade later. He remastered it with CGI, but holy crap, that original Yoda from The Phantom Menace is a freaking nightmare. God, man, I hate that Yoda so much. But still, there we go, rounding out the cast. Let's take a look at the clipper before I continue and go on to the final stretch.
You said people gonna die?
Once those droids take control of the surface, they will take control of you.
I was not elected to watch my people suffer and die while you discuss this invasion in a committee. Get to your ships!
They will never get me onto one of those dreadful starships.
Always two there are, a master and an apprentice.
Now, there were obviously a few glaring flaws here and there, you know. The Phantom Menace was very far from perfect, you know. I still really liked it, you know. I thought that, like, because of the set pieces, you know, the digital effects and just the characters being fleshed out and us being introduced to really actual cool lightsaber battles, you know, there is sort of like a nostalgic factor because I am a 90s kid, so I grew up watching the prequels instead of the original trilogy. I do love the originals, don't get me wrong, but the prequels have always spoken more to me because I'm like in the age gap where they started to become popular, you know. So I do have a special place in my heart for episodes 1, 2, and 3, you know. And because of the epic, a lot of the Phantom Menace was carried, you know, from the pod racing scene and also the final battle between Darth Maul and the Jedi, you know, where they played the... John Williams was, of course, the composer, you know, with the London Symphony Orchestra, and I'm pretty sure that's the same orchestra from before, you know. So he composed Duel of the Fates, which was an awesome, epic battle sequence, you know, the song that just crescendos, you know, then it builds up and comes back down, goes up and down. It's just an amazing, awesome musical score, you know, and that really set the scene for the final battle. So a lot of the Phantom Menace was carried because of this. The soundtrack was amazing, you know, and in the end, I am going to be giving the Phantom Menace what I consider to be a very well-deserved deserved 8 out of 10, okay? Now, it wasn't perfect, but there are still a few really cool things. I actually saw it again in theaters and when they came out in 3D, you know, and the new special effects across the newer edition started to make it look a lot better. It wasn't terrible, you know, it is very watchable and it is really cool and nostalgic, and that's why I'm gonna give it that, you know. And the movies, they just start to get better and better as they go on, so I'm gonna be covering that when I review Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, okay? I really hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day, and while you're at it, do hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload, and it's all good, baby. It's all good. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the Phantom Menace, you know, what you think about Jar Jar and all of those other things that didn't go too well, you know, that could have been scrapped but were not. And it's all good, man. Poor Jake Lloyd. He got such a bad rep, man. My God. Everything just sucked for the cast, didn't it? But anyway, that's it. Not all the actors were played their characters well, but they were still there, they were cool, so that is it for now. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen. Episode 1 of the outro screen.
Wipe them out. All of them.